I want to make 3 important prefaces before the video starts. First, the setups that will be shown in this video are not beginner friendly, even in the best conditions. Both the written document and the video assumes that you are knowledgeable about remaining energy already, and we will not be providing much basic information. As such, the intended audience is for those who are bored of the current RE setup and wants to try something different and more challenging. Second, the purpose of this video is to accompany the document as a visual aid. The majority of the explanations, details, and data are present in the written document, but not the video. This video only serves to visualize certain parts for accessibility and reduction in documentation density. If you have to pick one, go read the document. If you don't, and you just take the information from the video without knowing the context or underlying information, that's your fault. Thirdly, you will also see this in the written document, and I will read this again verbatim. Holding Blitz Rush first rotation. The rotation will be Maelstrom, Void Strike, T-Skill before or anywhere during your true combo, Blitz Rush, Surge, Maelstrom, Soul Absorber, True Combo, Blitz Rush, Surge, and repeats from the beginning. If you're looking at my Maelstrom cooldown, you can tell that if I keep doing the rotation quick enough and never stop, it will eventually slip out of the rotation, and it doesn't take that long for it to happen. And no, casting Maelstrom later in the rotation, say after Death Sentence, does not fix this issue either. This is still very straightforward and very brain off to play. Holding Blitz Rush, second rotation. The second rotation will start with Maelstrom, Void Strike, T-Skill before or anywhere in True Combo, Blitz Rush, Surge, Soul Absorber, Maelstrom, True Combo, Blitz Rush, and then Surge. From then on, the difference is simple. We recast Maelstrom every time it runs out, which will slowly delay it further into your rotation, meaning that eventually you will cast it after Twin Shadows, Death Sentence, Turning Slash, and then so on and so forth. Freeform normal Blitz Rush. For the second build, I'm not putting up a rotation for obvious reasons, but for the sake of demonstration, I perform a 6 searches cycle because I felt like it and 6 is a cool number. But other than that, it also showcases 2 different ways to fit 2 searches within one Maelstrom. One of them is risky and the other one is safe. Essentially, it's just a good example to demonstrate the principle behind the build. I would also recommend people testing the variation where you sacrifice one Maelstrom, but you get to stay in your cycle of fixing your Maelstrom on Soul Absorber and Blitz Rush, which is a lot safer. It looks risky because you always have one less stack of Maelstrom, but it is less likely that you have to wait around for a quarter of a second for your gauge to fill, or just not filling up your gauge completely. Now at this point, if things have stopped making sense, that's reasonable. If you haven't read the document, I would recommend doing that now. If you've read the document and you're following along and it still doesn't make sense, that's also completely okay. Disclaimer: the following were tested at 5 orb circulation with 2 8s and a 7. Of course, this is only Argeos, so take the gameplay with a huge grain of salt, but this seems like a good time to touch on practical raid effectiveness. Aside from Argeos, I've only done a single A gear 1-2 with the holding Blitz Rush build. The first thing I want to mention is the loss of spin cutter. You will definitely notice it during a raid relatively often, but it's not terrible after getting used to it. However, you can definitely feel your lack of back attack and mobility, and I would probably estimate around 5 to 10% back attack loss if it's a really bad run. Overall, the holding Blitz Rush build isn't crazy punishing, but your damage is really backloaded, and missing a back attack on Blitz Rush is like missing a back attack on pre-Omni Search. Not only that, 50% of the time you're also using 2 charge skills in one rotation, and Soul Absorber does not have Gale Wind on it. As for the normal Blitz Rush build, the Argeos you're about to see is probably the average or better than average gameplay you're gonna get for that in a raid. You're gonna be spending a lot of time figuring out how to fix your cast and compensating for the current rotation or even for the next rotation. It hurts even more when you miss gauge on the rotation when you're trying to fix your cast, so now you're on 0 Maelstrom stack. Aside from being very punishing and having a very improv recovery options, you will always be the furthest away from this build's ceiling because all of its damage comes from being able to cast 25% more than the other builds. And pretty much every raid, there are mechs, there are sudden movement that will scuff your cast. That is about all I'm going to cover in the video. I will try to update the document as I learn more or as there are questions that get brought up. Remember, I'm just one person and I'm a huge procrastinator too, so be nice.